the India's Most Trusted Brand of the Year Awards 2024 with the first award category, which is Best UGC NET JRF English Coaching in Delhi by Vineet Pandey. It goes to Professor Vineet Pandey.
दिल्ली में CMP द्वारा दूसरा अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन डॉक्टर दीक्षा त्रिपाठी ने थैनेटोपॉलिटिक्स पर चर्चा की।
As we all know, lamp lighting has always been very symbolic in our culture and tradition, and it symbolizes the wisdom of light over darkness. Let's just embrace this moment and bow to Goddess Saraswati and take our moment to wisdom and light in our own way.
This ceremony symbolizes knowledge, enlightenment, and collective wisdom guiding our way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you to join in a round of applause to mark the formal beginning of this conference as the lamps are being lighted.
Now, I would like to kindly request our esteemed panel to please come forward and take their seats on the dais. Your presence will truly enrich today's discussion.
Let the warmth of applause not faint for our guest. Please give them a round of applause. Let's keep our energies high as we are beginning this international dialogue today. Now, as a mark of respect, may I request our volunteers to kindly present bouquet, mementos, and goodies to our distinguished guests.
Professor Shaugata Bhaduri and Professor Shubhadeep Paul. Sir, we truly hope that these mementos and goodies will mark a mark in your heart and you'll truly engage in the discussion coming forward your way.
Let us give them a round of applause. Let us greet Professor Bhaduri
and Professor Paul.
We thank both our professors for joining us on the dais.
We are truly grateful for your presence, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to introduce to you the heart and mind behind today's gathering, the founder of the Cultural and Mainstream Post-Humanist Forum, Dr. Diksha Tripathi ma'am. Dr. Tripathi is not only a dedicated scholar, but also a visionary who has worked tirelessly to bring the discourse of post-humanism into mainstream conversations in India and beyond. Her research spans across post-humanist philosophy, cultural studies, and women's studies, and she has consistently illuminated how questions of identity, ethics, and society must be revisited in our rapidly changing times.
What truly sets Dr. Diksha apart is not only her academic brilliance, but her ability to combine intellectual depth with warmth and inclusivity. We are all here today because of her belief that ideas must not remain confined to books and classrooms, but must live, breathe, and engage with the world around us. Friends, may I request you to join me in extending a warm round of applause for Dr. Diksha, whose vision and commitment have made this international dialogue possible.
ladies and gentlemen. For me, it's indeed one of the most important day today. It just doesn't mark the beginning. Actually, we had the beginning the previous year itself, but having Shogda sir and Shubhadeep sir with us, along with Professor Pentaris and Dr. Sogner, Professor Sogner, it is marking a milestone in the history of post-humanities in India. Indeed an honor. So before I really start with my presentation, I would want to quote certain lines that really matter to me. 500 years of post-humanism have come to an end as humanism transforms itself into something that we may call post-humanism. Ihab Hassan, Prometheus as performer towards a post-humanist culture. This quote marks the beginning of post-humanism, 1977. So when nobody knew, the person knew that we may have many theories, and as we have the topic, Thanatopolitics, something that the words might sound esoteric, intriguing, probably, because even if I talk about myself, I have attended the kind of conferences, humanitarian grounds, many themes, but death as a theme is quite rare. And I am really glad that somewhere I had the idea that this particular theme in itself can mark the history. It really matters. So if I can have my laptop, I'll start with the presentation. And yes, again, the whole concept of, again, we have the Kunauses in front of us. I'm just nothing. But the kind of research I have done throughout my life has taught me a lot about post-humanism. So as we had the quote by Ihab Hassan, Thanatopolitics, Biopolitics, Necropolitics, the most opaque words for the reason. Because when we are talking about the biopolitics simply deals with the politics of life. When the government is telling you how you should live your life and what kind of infrastructure they are providing you, what kind of facilities they are providing their people with, their masses with, the politics to let live your life you want to live. Right, but when we are talking about Thanatopolitics, it is the politics of death. How do we have the politics of death? How do we actually have that? So when government leaves you on your own, right? When the political powers, they have left you on their own to feed yourself, just not in terms of probably your food or any other infrastructure, but as your existence. This marks the end or the culmination of your existence, because the attempt is quite deliberate. And the moment we talk about the necropolitics, it is the deliberate dying. We have many examples. If the government is providing you the ample infrastructure, yes, I guess I have the laptop, please. Though we are talking about post-humanism, transhumanism, the technology is something that really matters. Can I have it? Yes, necropolitics. I know all of you are much acquainted with what's probably going on in Nepal these days. Nepal today, ladies and gentlemen, is the best example for your necropolitical nuances, necropolitical scenarios, thanatopolitical scenarios. For what reason? What is going on in Nepal? Something that was probably going on in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So if we talk about Sri Lanka 2022, if we talk about Bangladesh 2024, and if we talk about Sri Lanka 2025, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we call the algorithm switch. What's the algo switch? How do we mark the shift of the algo switch? So algo switch, when you are creating, when you are generating certain videos or probably certain ideas that lead to a national protest. That is how we define the idea of algorithm switch. So, Thanatopolitics, the politics of life and death, as we have already had discussed. I have a very, very special dilemma that I always had. Imagine if there are 5 people riding in a boat, right, and the place is just for 4 people. One has to get down from that boat. Who will decide who will be that person who will be getting down from that boat? This is the most ample example for your Thanatopolitics, how government decides that whose person's life should be protected and who should be allowed to die. The core concept for your Thanatopolitical scenarios. Then, as we have discussed, Nepal's crisis, necropolitics, more than 20 people, they lost their lives. Then 300 people, they were injured, and 25 people, they were still detained. So if we mark the root of the word Thanatopolitics, it has a very Greek root. The word Thanos, again, quite famous amongst the youngsters, the Gen Zs. Thanos, again, a very famous character, a very famous man from the movie itself. Then Michel Foucault was the pioneer of biopolitics. Now we are talking about necro and thanatopolitics. But Michel Foucault, again, he is said to be the most important progenitor in the history of thanatopolitics, as he was the person who talked about biopolitics on the very first thing. Then, if we are talking about biopolitical systems, we have to quote state racism. When the government deliberately creates such scenario that are quite unfamiliar with the masses, and again, when the masses are not able to process their existence by those policies, again, that falls under the category of state racism. Giorgio Agamben, again, very, very, very important pioneer who was there, who talked about thanatopolitics as a core concept, as a full-fledged concept, as he talked about the bare life. How do government leaves, or how do government marks a culmination, and actually thing around people, how government really decides that this particular segment should be left and this particular segment should be taken into consideration. The bare life concept, these are the bare minimum facilities, these are the bare minimum infrastructure we should provide with our masses. This is how we talk about the bare minimum concept. We have heard about the Nazi camps, Hitler's camps, again, the concentration camps. They are the most prominent example for your necropolitics category. And now that we are talking about necropolitical situations, we all are familiar with what was probably going on in Kashmir. The Armed Forces Special Power Act, what's that? How do we actually define AFSPA? Why do we need that? Why the army in Kashmir is still dealing the way they really want to, without any credibility to their actions with the masses around. Very famous example for necropolitical, thanatopolitical scenarios that we are facing these days. Achille Mbembe, again, very, very important figure in necropolitics, as he simply coined the word necropolitical situations, Then we have the concept of death worlds. What are death worlds? How they are being generated by these government people, by the people from government. Again, we had the system of apartheid. We had the race, caste, creed system in India from quite a long. And let me tell you, more than 4,000 manual scavengers, they lose their life every year, more than. Why do they do that? Why the people like us, the civilized people of India or for any country, why the deaths of these people don't matter to them, don't matter to us, why we are not being informed about their deaths? Because they don't matter to us? No, because government has not given enough credibility, has not given enough credit to the life of those people around. This is the most humble, no, I won't say humble actually. This is the most important example for thanatopolitical scenarios in India. People dying, government not noticing anything. And then we are left with, by the way, I have a question. We really talk about post-humanism, thanatopolitical scenarios, but before that, is it possible to have post-humanism scenario without humanitarian grounds, without humanism, without equality, without fraternity? I have a very famous quotation, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 18, chapter number 5th. Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavihastini suni chaiv shvapake cha pandita samadarshana. This means a sage man sees everyone with equality. A connoisseur man sees everyone with equality, with fraternity. All that matters in this world is equality at the very core of your life, at the very end of your life. So without humanitarian grounds, nothing is possible. Antaha asti prarambha. From your end begins your beginning. It is like that. Things do happen that way. Now that we are talking about post-humanism, thanatopolitical scenarios, nuances, we should never forget the roots of these things that come from the humanitarian grounds that we are losing quite often these days. We have again, when I was doing my research, the most intriguing ideas I came across was the sarcopods, the most necropolitical mediation we have these days now. Sarcopods, the suicide pods. So there will be a pod that will be filled with nitrogen. By the way, there is a concept called the soothing death. Euthanasia was never legal in India, but after the 2011-2019 rulings of Supreme Court, partial euthanasia is actually implemented in the Constitution. What is partial euthanasia? How do you die partially? So if a person is terminally ill, if he is in a vegetative state since quite a long, he might be allowed on the natural grounds to die peacefully. This is what we talk about thanatopolitical concepts in Indian scenario. But if we are talking about thanatopolitics, necropolitics, in global scenario, we have suicide pods. Switzerland was the first country who introduced suicide pods, the sarcopods. Again, for me, it will always be controversial because ending your life, we being Indians, I do believe in miracles. I have my CMP with me. For me, things do happen, miracles do happen. And that's why I believe life is a very precious thing and it should not be, we should never leave hope. Hope is something that really sticks us together. So sarcopods, again, a very simple procedure. The pod, they simply fill with nitrogen, again, and you don't feel any pang, you don't feel any pain, and you die peacefully. So there was a very controversial thing that came afterwards as it was said that the lady, I guess, probably 2 years back, she chosen this option, the very particular technique. And then we came to know that the lady, she was strangulated. There were the signs of strangulation on her neck. So do sarcopods really matter? Are they really essential? Because for me, I will be always having this question that why do we still have it? People are dying, they have the concepts of peaceful, soothing dying, but why? Why do we need that? Now the ball lies in your court. It will be on your wisdom to decide that if you really need it or not. Now, yes, the very recent example, I was quite intrigued. Again, with the idea, we have world's first AI minister, DLR, with us, ladies and gentlemen. DLR is world's first procurement minister, by the way. She has been given the tender of Albania. So an Albanian AI minister, DLR, who is the procurement minister, she takes care of the tenders, the government tenders, the health infrastructure tenders, that they will be provided without any bias, without any corruptions to the people concerned. No, nothing partial or biasness, no biasness would be there. So again, why Albania ever needed an AI like, or an AI minister like DLR? Because humans are corrupt, because humans don't believe in the powers of humans anymore. So now we believe in AI. But don't you all think that AI can be proven to be the most, again, corrupt form of any official? For me, yes, of course they can. There's a lot you can do. But again, just like the other thing, I'll leave it to your wisdom for you to decide if you really need an AI minister in India, of course. We have talked about, again, America was, in America, we had the history of the Afro-American people being tormented. More than 1,000 people die every year, because we have the data that amply tell you the thanatopolitical scenarios are still not good. Again, the world's leading country, and yes, necropolitical scenario, most recent example, Charlie Kirk, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. Charlie Kirk was shot dead. Now please tell me, the way he was killed, was it planned or was it a natural cause? Because for me, everything was planned. You all know everything was planned. So, necropolitical scenarios, be it in India or abroad or any other country, the scenario still remains same. What really matters is that how you have started channelizing it. I remember Bembe was very clear with his ideas when he said that if you really want to understand the concept of thanatopolitics, you have to challenge it on the very first basis. So challenging thanatopolitical scenario is simply to understand them. Now, the COVID triage that was going on, one of the most famous example for your thanatopolitical, necropolitical scenario, the COVID triage, there were many people, again, especially if we talk about Italy, patients more than 60, above than the age of 60, was simply left to die by the Italian government. For what reason? Because they thought that probably saving the lives of youngsters mattered the most at that particular timing. This is how the complete channel of thanatopolitics operate. And then, of course, we have many guests. They'll be telling you more and more and the most important parts about thanatopolitics. But before I sum up, again, for me, again, as I told you, it's a very, very emotional day. Things were not so easy for me. And yes, quite a few people know that CMP is just not my creation alone. So along with my significant other, there's a silent co-founder with me. That's my mother. So yes, when I was quite 6 years back, I remember. So when I just had a simple idea in my mind that I need to do something for my people and I have to find a way. So after 6 years, when I just completed my PhD, I just knew that now this is the time I should hit the bullseye. And then, of course, along with my husband, Vineet, my mother was the guiding light, the bearer for me, who told me that you just go ahead. He's there, I am there. Even doesn't matter if no one supports you, you do something. If things won't work out, it's okay. You shun them. You just shun them simply if they don't work out, but at least try. At least try. So as I stand here in front of you, tall and smiling, it's just not because of my mother, but my husband, of course. So I simply say this thing when I had many days that I used to feel that CMP would never see the broad daylight. I simply felt that, but then again, he was there to support me, he was there to guide me, he's again a mentor for me. So as I stand here in a hall full of pioneers, full of scholars, full of professors, sir, it's indeed an honor. And yes, I really hope that I could do it, because for every Diksha, there is a Vineet. Every Diksha, there is her mother. Her name is Madhu Tripathi. So yes, my father is also here again. So I am really glad I could make it. I could really make it. And thank you, professors. Thank you, Shobhadeep sir. Thank you, Bhadri sir, for joining me. Thank you, Professor Pantaras. Thank you, Professor Sogner. I hope you all are hearing me. For me, it's again a very, very, again, emotional is something that I'm not able to find words right now. I am really beholden to these people for making up. And yes, one last thing. CMP, again, when I was very skeptical about certain things, I always knew that CMP will be, again, a milestone in the history of Indian post-humanism. So with your support, with you people, I know I'll be able to deal with it in all the ways possible. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad you all are here. Thank you very much. I'll see you.